Hey, howdy, hey, time travellers. A shirtless, or pretty much not wearing much, Wolfman Force and Dash here. Not wearing much because it has been a particularly hot day, although my flat's pretty cool at the moment, so yeah. So, time travel. We all know what it is. It's travelling to the past,
the present, the future, and the only way to do it is with a time machine. We've had all sorts of different time machines. Some have been like quite literal time machines, others have been just you as a person travelling through time and then appearing in the present or whichever time period you're in, completely naked like I am at the moment, because physically you can survive but your clothes can't. And then sometimes they just appear as objects that we see in our day-to-day lives, and in this case this is the sort of main subject of today's video. So the TARDIS from Doctor Who is obviously the police box, which is a common thing found here in the UK, although not used as much these days thanks to the creation of mobile phones. And then we've got the Back to the Future time machine, the DeLorean, which is of course quite literally a DeLorean, the actual car. Now, there are a few key differences between both machines, but to basically sum it up without making things complicated or going into too much detail, one is an alien spaceship that's created using Gallifreyan technology, so which obviously means it's from the planet Gallifrey, and the other is made by a mad scientist who uses different components, including a flux capacitor and all sorts of other things. Now, the way these two machines work is that for TARDIS, the TARDIS can pretty much turn into any kind of object it can, while it has some things inside set in place. So in the case of the Doctor's TARDIS, it's always been a police phone box because his whatever it's called, circuit something rather, has not been properly inserted or whatever it is, or repaired or whatever. So it's always been a police phone box. But usually the TARDIS would be able to turn into different objects depending on the time period or planet that it lands on, because not only is it a time machine, it can also travel through space as well, because it's time and space. So yeah. Whereas the DeLorean, it remains as a DeLorean, so it's no matter where it goes in time, it will always remain as a DeLorean. So that's how they appear depending on where you go. But what about how you actually travel in time? So with the TARDIS, obviously dates and stuff need to be inputted, and you have to pull some levers and everything, but it's otherwise just pretty straightforward. It just needs that bit of momentum to get it going, and eventually it will arrive in places. Usually how the Doctor goes about her
day, then whatever TARDIS is that some funnels are placed. It's sort of a rocky ride, but then they arrive where they want to arrive. One with some exceptions being the time when River Song, who is part of Gallifrey herself, did something to the TARDIS which allowed it to not be a rough one that doesn't do the whooshing sounds that we all know and love. In this case, it will just simply be stabilized and everything. So there is a way to stabilize the TARDIS when it lands where it wants to land.
The DeLorean, on the other hand, you need a bit more to it. So obviously it has to go at 88 miles an hour. It runs on such and such gigawatts, and I know they say gigawatts, but it's actually scientifically it's known as gigawatts. And the whole only has to hit it for it to travel through time. Although in later installments of the Back to the Future films, the DeLorean has sort of expanded to be able to go in time no matter what, as demonstrated in Part 2, where we see it be a floating car and it's able to travel through time just as it is. So yeah. So I think if I were to pick which one I prefer, even though the ride's a bit rocky, I do prefer the TARDIS on the basis that it's a much more stable ride when travelling through time and space. But because it's made using alien technology,
It obviously is make believe and cannot therefore cannot exist in the real world. Even though there's lots of people that do create TARDISes for fan conventions and everything, like most people do.
The DeLorean, on the other hand, is a very real car. I know a lot of people assume that the DeLorean is a fictional car, but no, it is a very real car. The only reason why it's depicted as a time machine is because of its popularity in Back to the Future. But it is very much a real car. Although I think the components to make it into a time machine are not exactly real, but you know, this is the joy of these time travel films, TV shows, and whatever. We're just of the opinion that these sorts of technologies exist in that particular universe, and we love to have them in our universe, but obviously we can't. Obviously, both franchises are kind of sort of set in the time period, in the time that they are released. So, for example, with every Doctor Who series, unless it's stated otherwise, it's usually set in the year that the episodes are released. So, in the Revival series, the very first series was set in 2005 to begin with, and then 2006 from the 13 episodes onwards. And obviously travels through time and space, and therefore
it goes to the past,
future, and so forth. Whereas the DeLorean, well, the Back to the Future films were released in the mid to late 80s or throughout the 80s. You can tell me in the comments if I'm wrong about that or not. So obviously it would be set during that time, 1985, and then the rest of it. So yeah, that's basically what I think. Both of them are unique, but on the basis of which one's more stable, the TARDIS would definitely be more stable because it doesn't take much effort for it to travel through time, but it does need some forms of power to pack a punch, albeit alien power, so to speak. But it can use sort of human stuff as well, like but I know the heart of TARDIS can be forcibly opened for it to revive itself, and other components thrown in as well. The DeLorean, it does take more effort to travel through time, and because of the risk that it poses, it being a futuristic machine, if taken to the distant past
or quite near past, there is the potential risk that people will see it as nothing more than something that doesn't really exist. So yeah, timey-wimey
stuff. It's just so complicated to explain. But yeah, basically the TARDIS would be my preferred choice, but obviously if you think it's the DeLorean, that's down to you. So do leave what you think in the comments, but that's just my opinion, and that's all I'm going to say on that before I make things any more complicated, because of all things sci-fi, time travel is definitely something that can be very complicated to explain, and even when shows and films and so forth do try to explain it, it sometimes goes over my head, you know, because me being autistic, it's one of those things where they can talk about it all day long if they want to, but it'll just go through my head, and if lots of stuff is thrown in my face, I'll just start to get very tired and struggle to stay awake, because it's like yeah, basically that. So yeah, but anyway, that's all I've got to say on that, and obviously I do love to hear what you think about other time machines as well, whether they're more stable than the TARDIS and the DeLorean. I know I briefly touched upon Terminator as well, and the original time machine film that came way before those. I think with Hot Tub Time Machine, the only main thing with that is that obviously you are going to get wet, and it obviously only works when certain events are happening, and the only way to get back is to make sure certain events happen again for it to activate. So it does have that sort of negative effect that it only activates when it needs to activate. So yeah, from what I remember from the film. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say. So thank you so much for watching, and like, share, comment and subscribe if you can, please. Those of you new to the channel, I do vlogs like this where I'm talking about all sorts of different things, including versus battles like I've done today. Look at different characters, review things, do hauls, do rants on life, reviews on things, top 10s, seeing things in a different genre, exploring different multiverses, and all sorts of other things as well. And if you like gaming, I'll do some gaming videos as well. So I do gaming play videos where it's just straight gameplay, no commentary, just straight gameplay with some editing and memes thrown in for good measure. And let's play videos where you hear me talk or see me talk, do challenges and everything as I play a game for you guys. And usually it's a long playthrough of games it's usually either a long playthrough of games for the first 2 days of the week, and then the third day it's a gameplay video of a game that I have no intention of doing a playthrough of at that time, or it's a game that I'll just revisit every now and again. So yeah, I also do occasional shorts as well, so that's what I do. See you in the next one. Peace to you all. Stay cool in this heat that we have at the moment. And remember, if you are making your own time machine, remember that sometimes you do need to pay attention to the complications, because any wrong thing you do will just screw things up. Remember, if you're time traveling the Terminator A, remember, get some clothes straight away as soon as you land, because you're going to appear naked. So get clothes straight away. If you're traveling by Tardis, make sure you have been taught by a Time Lord to travel in time. If you're traveling by DeLorean, make sure Doc Brown explains it to you. If you're traveling by Hot Time Machine, obviously do wear clothes when you use it, because otherwise you don't want to appear in your swimsuits and everything when you arrive. Yeah, and yeah, so yeah, all right, doodles.